So I'm about to leave home to come and record this video where my daughter says to me, she says, "Dad, my iPhone's just rebooting every 3 minutes. What do I do?" So an hour of troubleshooting later, still didn't quite resolve it, but that's a story for another day. I finally got out here to record this, and an hour ago, the weather was just fabulous. It was great for filming. It was cloudy. The light was even and natural. Hey, cat. And then I came out here and blue skies, sunshine, which is less than ideal. But you know what? We're going to soldier on. Hello, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live today, and my goal around here is to help you create, record, and release your best music. And of course, because we're doing a live or live to tape outside podcast, we get sounds like that, don't we? So I'm bringing you with me on a walk here into the city, and I'm going to answer 10 questions that I get asked at least reasonably frequently here on the channel about life, the universe, music, and everything. By the way, that wasn't my house. I'm not that silly. So we're going to dive into number one, which I do get asked quite a lot, which is, do you ever regret quitting your day job to become a full-time YouTuber? Now, first up, I struggle with the term YouTuber. I don't really know what I want to be called. I tend to go with content creator, probably just as wanky, but YouTuber makes it sound like I'm like comment, subscribe, guys, smash the like button, ring the bell. And I guess a certain amount of me is that, but I definitely go with content creator or music educator. If I'm in very refined company, I'll be like, oh, I'm a music educator. I educate folks about music. But do I regret it? No. And I'm going to sound a bit woo-woo here, but I don't really believe in regrets, because regardless of how much you feel about good or bad about your decisions, you can't change them. So knowing that you can't change your decisions, your best bet is to just double down. No, your best bet is to accept them and look at what are you doing now and what can you do in the future. So for me, when I first started doing this, I had a pretty basic philosophy, which is that I wanted to help people create, record, and release music. I was doing a lot more pre-recorded tutorial stuff. Wasn't doing the live streams because I didn't have the know-how, the confidence, or the technology. It has evolved over time, and I think this is probably advice for those who maybe are in the real world, in the workforce. If you don't like your job, I know people say, if you don't like your job, you should just quit it. Hey, dog, if you don't like your job, just quit it, do something else. Not practical for a lot of folks, but what you can do, and what I used to do, is you can explore other opportunities and alternative ways of doing your job, or make your own job. When I worked for a corporate energy company, they didn't really have a job for someone to look after their survey program. And I loved doing customer experience survey stuff, so I kind of made up my own job. And I've kind of done that again with this. I've pieced together a bunch of different stuff through sponsored content, through YouTube ads, through the revenue I get from selling things on Amazon, and I've put together close to a full-time income. So regrets, no. And am I complacent? Do I just sit there on my bum going, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect it to be the same way forever? Also no. Would I recommend you get into it? Probably not, but if you are passionate about it, I did this as a side hustle for over 5 years, folks, so definitely start doing it. The best time to start YouTube is 5 years ago. The second best time to start it is right now. So even if you don't think you've got what it takes to do it full time, why not just dabble in it? Number two, what do you think of AI music, Pete? You must be really against it. Or maybe you're one of those AI music apologists that are like, hey, wave of the future, people, get on board. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to disappoint everyone by saying that I'm somewhere in between. Now, before you get into the comments section and tell me why I'm terrible, I think that the best music is created by humans for humans. I don't think anyone knows what people want to hear and can create that unique specialness apart from humans. I don't think the robots have got it. I think they're just taking the conglomeration. And here's the problem with AI music is it's taking an average. It's why chat models are not great, because they take everything and create average. They aggregate it out instead of creating something unique and different and cool. Now, is there problems with things like Suno and Udio? Yes, absolutely. So if someone is calling themselves a musician by typing prompts into these platforms, scraping other people's music, creating their own music from it, uploading it to Spotify and getting thousands of plays and taking money out of the pockets of hardworking creators, yes, that's bad. I think there's very few. If you want to jump in the comments, now's your chance. Now you can go down there and tell me why I'm wrong and why it's okay. People should be working out scalable businesses and using words like arbitrage and six-figure income. But I'd rather leave that to the crypto bros and the course launch bros because I just think AI should be used to help us, right? And this is why I don't come straight out and say AI equals bad. We didn't call it AI, but we've been using AI in music creation for years. Automatic drummers, plugins, effects, presets, electric guitars, for goodness sake. When people started playing electric guitars, folks were like, oh, if it's not acoustic music, if you're amplifying your sound, that's not real music. But it was, and it was cool. So if you're using a drum loop, if you're using an electric guitar, if you're using an electric keyboard or a synthesizer, that's still using these tools. And that's the difference, is I think that AI should be a tool. It should be something that is used to help humans create their best human music. So am I against AI? Not fundamentally. Am I against people utilizing AI for nefarious purposes that's taking money out of the pocket of really hard-working musicians? Yes, I am. And do I wish that there was more boundaries, more sort of rules and frameworks around this? Sort of, and I think there will be. I mean, you look at the valuations of Suno and Udio and venture capitalists putting money in there. They clearly think that this is something that is a growth industry. I hope they're wrong, to be honest. And I think humans will vote with our ears and eventually with our wallets. And AI music goes away, hopefully. Number 3, should I switch to Mac? Oh boy, I get asked this question a lot, either from two sources, folks that are using a PC and are like, you're a Mac guy, you moved from PC to Mac, should I do it too? Or folks that have been using iPhones or iPads to create music and they're like, oh, I'm going to graduate up to the Mac, Johns, what do you reckon? So what do I reckon? There's two schools of thought here. One is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Use the tools you have right now to create music. So if you think, it'll be instantly better if I have a Mac as opposed to a PC or an iPhone or an iPad, I think you might be deluding yourself a little bit there. But if you are hitting limitations of the gear that you're using right now, especially if it's sort of iPhone or iPad stuff, and you're like, I really want 2 big screens and a mouse and a keyboard, then yeah, you might want to check out a Mac. The folks on the PC side, I spoke with my mate Mike over at Creative Source this week, and we were talking about this because he's just got himself a MacBook Pro. He's had some challenges. Again, it's not going to be perfect transition for everyone every time. So he's had challenges and he's talked about those. You can go check out his channel if you want to hear all about it. But he said to me, look, it's not smooth. It's not this whole it just works thing that a lot of Mac people say. And I 100% agree. If you go back to 2020 and you check out the content on this channel, when I bought my first Mac, I had a hard old time. I had issues with Bluetooth, with my mouse not working. I had issues with the Wi-Fi. I had issues with the screen displays. I had 2 monitors and they kept swapping each other. I had issues setting up my webcam because there were no webcam settings and the app didn't work. You had to buy a separate app for webcam. So I had my fair share, not to mention learning about the command key, learning that when you close an app, it doesn't really close, learning why you can't use Control-C and Control-V, it's Command-C and Command-V. Yeah, it's a learning curve. So and here's the thing, my dad is on a PC, and I've been very tempted. The last time he bought a computer, I was very tempted to say, you should get a Mac, it just works, no viruses, no spam, no like spyware. It is definitely a lot safer from that point of view because less people are using it. But does that mean you should change? Change arbitrarily for change's sake? No. So yeah, I think if you have a really good reason why you want to go from either PC or iPad or iPhone to Mac, then you'll probably know that. You'll probably know it going in. If you're just changing for change's sake, maybe stick with what you know. Very closely related to that is, why don't you cover GarageBand Mac on your channel? Why are you stuck in iPad and iPhone world? And there's a few reasons for that. The main number one reason is Patrick from the GarageBand Guide exists. And while Patrick is doing such a great job, I don't feel that I need to actually cover it in detail. I have covered little bits and pieces here and there. I've covered things like the Logic Remote. I've done a video series when I first got my Mac talking about how to get started and who should choose a Mac. And as I mentioned in the last one, I showed you some of the challenges and some of the difficulties I had when I got my first Mac. But there is so much. The reason I started this channel is that there wasn't enough, in my opinion, content out there about GarageBand on iPhone and iPad. There's quite a lot out there. There's folks like Colin, the band guy, there's Patrick from the GarageBand Guide. There's a lot of folks over years, GarageBand and beyond, our old mates. So there's been people over the years that have covered GarageBand. And it's not that you can't still find things to talk about in GarageBand Mac, but definitely not as much. And there's definitely a lot of courses and tutorials and things out there around GarageBand Mac. So I would like to use GarageBand and even Logic on Mac a little more in the future. But for now, it's not a priority. Whereas there's still a lot of new people coming into GarageBand and Logic on iOS that I think I can help more. So it's not that I don't want to. It's not that you should feel bad if you use GarageBand Mac and you're watching other channels. Go check out Patrick. Number 5, why can't I edit my album, add a track to my album, remove a track from my album, edit a single I've released, re-release the same single on DistroKid? Now, if you don't know, if you haven't been around the channel for a while, I've been covering DistroKid, who are a online music distribution platform. They are a sponsor of the channel. Full disclosure, save yourself 7% off any DistroKid plan. Use the link down below. However, people kind of think, because I've been covering DistroKid for so long, I am DistroKid, and that I can magically wave my wand and DistroKid will do whatever they want them to do. The way that I put this out there is that even though music distribution is digital now, which is great, and people are so used to digital because digital you can change. If something goes wrong with digital, you can edit it, you can change it, you can take something down, you can put something up, you can make all the changes you want to, and it's no harm, no foul. You compare that to when we were releasing analog music, it was a lot different, wasn't it? Yeah, when you're releasing a CD or a cassette or vinyl, you couldn't go, oh no, I put the wrong track. Track 6 is actually the demo version, not the fully mastered version. I'm going to change it. So I know that we can now, but just because we can doesn't mean we should. There's a few other issues here. So the main reason that you can't edit stuff using DistroKid is that the platforms that you release to were getting jack of all the people that were trying to re-release songs. And unfortunately, yes, it is a case of a few people ruining it for the majority of people. So the few people that were trying to re-release their songs to get them on playlists and to try and hack the algorithm or do whatever, they were kind of ruining it for everyone else. So now we can't edit the stuff we have up there or re-release the same songs. So the way I position this is, when you're releasing something, pretend that it's actually a physical item. Pretend that this is your one shot. You're like Eminem. You've only got one shot to get this right. The good news is, though, that you can release multiple versions. You can do retakes, you can do remastered versions, you can do remixed versions, you can do collaborated versions which feature different artists. There's no limitations to you being able to release a new version of a song. So instead of worrying about that album that didn't have that perfect song at that perfect spot, how about you let go of your releases? When you release something, let it go. The reason I say create, record, release, and that's been my Studio Live Today motto for so many years, is I think that we hang on to things too much. We're like, oh, it wasn't quite right. Let's strive for perfection. Guess what? Perfection is a myth. It doesn't work. And even if you could get perfection, people tend to spend 80% of their time trying to achieve that final 20% perfection. Now, am I saying just do things at 80%? No, not really. But I see too many people waste too much time worrying about what they've got out there instead of worrying about the next thing they're going to do. Kind of like I said at the very start around regrets. don't regret what you haven't done or what you've done in the past. Just think about what you're going to do in the future, right? Are you right? I agree. We'll go on to number 6 in just a moment, but before that, yeah, you might be wondering why I'm in a park and there's a piano. Well, it's part of a local piano company called Lever and Sons have this initiative called Pianos in the Park, and they literally put sort of old pianos that are a bit past their prime and they stick them in parks, and you can just come along and play them. And I think that's kind of cool, rather than these things going to landfill. I mean, they're not tuned perfectly. Many of them have a key or two that's a bit bung. But yeah, you're walking through a park and you just hear beautiful acoustic piano music. It's cool. And I've definitely done that a few times as well. Cricket ball. It's a bit soggy. So this is my favourite sport, cricket. Got a seam there. This ball's seen better days. They're made of leather, actually, and they're quite hard. Anyway, the random things you find walking around in the park here in Adelaide. What were we talking about? Yes, number 6. Number 6, this is one I got recently. Someone was saying to me, I've followed a lot of your videos, I mix and master my own music, but I feel I'm not quite there, and I'm considering hiring a mix engineer or a producer or a mastering engineer. What do you think, Johns? Well, what do I think about mix engineers and producers and mastering engineers? I think they're good. I think that if you don't feel like you're getting exactly what you need out of what you're doing, then maybe collaborating or working with someone else could actually be a good option. Now, it won't be for everyone, because a lot of folks that are watching this, like, I spend enough money on my gear, on my rig, on my plugins, on my effects. I'm not spending hundreds of dollars more to get someone else to mix and to master my songs. And that's cool, and that's fine. But it might not even be hiring someone. It might not even be paying someone. Now, am I saying you should go and stiff someone? No. But what I'm saying is, quite often we just think we have to do everything ourselves. Now, I'm not great at drums, right? Programming drums, playing drums, it's just not my forte. I can do it, but I don't do it as well as others. So I have someone by the name of Jade who plays drums on most of my songs. I was also approached recently by some folks that I know in the community that were looking for some acoustic guitar on a track. And I said, yeah, of course, here's some acoustic guitar. Looking for some vocals, some backing vocals. I'm like, yeah, here's some backing vocals. So I think one of the cool things in the sort of the home recording world is that we have almost a barter economy, don't we? That if you've got, say you've got skills in 3 different areas, why not join a group, a community, a forum, and share your skills? Offer to add particular sounds or record on other people's songs, and then guess what? When you need someone to help you, when you need a bass player, when you need that flautist, who knows? You can actually find it. One of the best songs that I ever recorded and released is a song called Things Change. I like it because it tells a good story, and I think it has a good message, but I really like it because a friend of mine and fellow YouTube content creator, Dan, provided some amazing violin. So I sent it off to Dan, and he created this amazing violin sound. Now that was kind of mutually beneficial because he made a video on his channel about how he got this from me, and then some of my viewers went over and they watched that video. And then when I put it back on mine, same deal. I actually said, yeah, these are violins by my mate Dan, and added it too. So yeah, there's ways. So the question, it's again, sometimes the answer isn't yes or no. Sometimes the answer is, let's reframe the question. So should you hire a mix engineer could turn into, should you join communities where you can share your skills and maybe tap into other people's skills? And maybe no one has to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars. Maybe we can all just help each other out. Is that a bit hippie? I am next to a community garden, so maybe I'm getting a bit hippy-dippy. Let's move on. Number 7. All right, we're going to get a bit more technical here for a moment. So if you don't like the technical nerd stuff, you might want to skip through to number 8 right now. But number 7, Thunderbolt. What the heck is Thunderbolt, Johns? Or more broadly, how do I work out what cable I need to plug into what thing? In 2025, it seems to be more confusing than ever. Despite the fact that most things are USB or USB-C, why has it got to be so hard, man? What's Thunderbolt? What's Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 5, USB-C? Okay, so let's break it on down here. So USB-C is the cable type. USB-A was the first one. You'd know that one. That's the rectangle, the very classic USB shape. You got those ports on your old computers. USB-B was a bit of a weird one. That's actually the other end of a printer cable. You know that bit that you stick into your printer back in the day? That's called USB-B. USB-C is the next iteration of cable connector type. Now the problem with that is that, like USB, USB-C is often interchanged as referring to both the type, the connector type, and the actual transport protocol. So here's the problem. So Lightning, think of Lightning cable that you use on your older phones and iPads. That's called Lightning. It's a Lightning cable, and the connector is called Lightning, and the protocol to transfer is called Lightning. Very simple, right? USB-C is different. So USB-C also has the USB-C protocol, which is a faster than USB, but not super fast connection type. So USB-C. USB-C cable types can also send Thunderbolt signals. Now, Thunderbolt started about a decade ago, and we've had Thunderbolt 2, 3, 4, and now 5. The only difference there is the speed. They all use the same USB-C connector type. So you're still plugging in that small USB-C cable, but it's running at much faster speeds. So if you're using a modern laptop and you've got yourself an SSD drive, it might be Thunderbolt 5, which is the very, very fastest. Or you might be running Thunderbolt 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. They're all backwards compatible, and they are technically forwards compatible. But here's the thing. If you are using, say, a Thunderbolt 5 hard drive, and you plug it into Thunderbolt 3 ports, you're getting Thunderbolt 3 speeds. The same way around, if you're using a Thunderbolt 3 drive into a Thunderbolt 5 port, you're getting Thunderbolt 3 speeds. It's always going to scale down to the lowest speed based on whichever device you're connecting to what other device. Now, the reason I'm mentioning all this is that the latest iPads and iPhones are starting to upgrade their connections. The latest iPad has Thunderbolt 4, the latest MacBooks have Thunderbolt 5. And this is important because if you're starting to connect up a large number of peripherals, especially things like hard drives that require that speed, you may want to actually explore and get yourself devices that have Thunderbolt 5. Now, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't everyone just get Thunderbolt 5 cables and connections and gear? Because it's bloody expensive, because it costs a fortune at the moment. So Thunderbolt 3 and 4 is kind of the sweet spot. I've got a bit of Thunderbolt 3 and 4 gear, but I don't have anything on Thunderbolt 5. And I'm not rushing out to do it because unless you are transferring super large files and you need that to happen super quickly, so let's say you're editing video and you've got multiple streams of 4K video that you need to encode and save and move around, yeah, you might need Thunderbolt 5. But for the rest of us, probably not. So to reiterate, what is Thunderbolt? What is USB-C? USB-C is the connector type, and USB-C can be used for things like power. So that you might have got little devices, like say you've got I've got a portable shaver that has USB-C connector. That's just for power. That's just so you can plug it in using the power part of your cable. No data transfer whatsoever. So USB-C is the connector type, and then the actual connection can also be called USB-C, just to be confusing, but sometimes it's Thunderbolt. Did I make things clearer or less clear? Not quite sure. Frunk. Whenever you see a Tesla, you must shout frunk. Frunk, oh, it's the same one. Oh, and I say frunk because, in case you didn't know, Teslas don't have a trunk, they have a frunk because it's in the front. This is the Alma Tavern. This is one of my favourite pubs here in the east of Adelaide. If you ever come to Adelaide and you're hanging out with me, I'll probably take you here. So let's move on to our next one. Can you make money with music? Oh my goodness, yeah. I've probably answered this question on the channel 10 or more times over the years, but it's not that it changes over time, but there's some nuances that change over time. In particular, how you get paid and from what. So for instance, Spotify. I just watched a great Ben Jordan video where he showed that Spotify pay 3 times less in 2025 than they did in 2011. So if you're an artist and you're making 1 million streams and getting paid like 5 grand for 1 million streams, you're now getting paid $1.5 grand. Like, imagine another job where your income has reduced by 3 times in the last decade, like inflation included. But yeah, can you imagine that? So you've got to think in terms of that. For me, I make a lot of my revenue from YouTube AdSense. So you're watching this on YouTube probably right now, and if you've been served up an ad, or if you've clicked an ad, or you've interacted with an ad, then you're helping me. You're giving revenue, because that's the vast majority of the revenue that comes in for these YouTube videos is through YouTube AdSense. So thank you. Or if you're using YouTube Premium, even better, because you're not seeing ads, but they still break off a chunk of that YouTube Premium that you pay for, and they send it to creators. And if you're like me and you're complaining about the fact that your YouTube Premium has gone up significantly, and it has in the last few years, yeah, just keep in mind that that's to ensure that us creators can continue to get paid. Now, we've got the same problem as Spotify, as someone releasing with Spotify, in that our CPMs, or our costs per milli, cents per milli, which is basically a fancy way of saying how much money you get paid per view, or more appropriately per advertised view. That has decreased, and that has decreased across the board. It's decreased for me, it's decreased for a lot of folks, the vast majority of people on YouTube. It varies depending on the niche or the area or the type of content that you're creating, but definitely the vast majority of folks have had less. So I know I've gone off on a couple of tangents here to answer this. The other thing that we've got to consider is that when we're going through a global economic crisis like we kind of are right now, it makes it harder again, because the other revenue source you have as a content creator, regardless of whether it's music or anything else, is from sponsored content. And companies have had less money to spend on advertising or on sponsoring content in recent times. It's why you've seen, if you watch YouTube across the board, you've seen less people being sponsored by relevant sponsors. Now, what do I mean by that? So here on this channel, my sponsors are DistroKid and BandLab. They're companies that I use, and they're companies that are 100% relevant to the content that I'm sharing with you here. Now, is there inherently something wrong with the NordVPNs and the MyHeritage and that weird Scottish one and the Better Health? Oh, not really. I mean, yeah, it's an ad. It's disclosed as an ad, and they're paying you because people are watching your video. I would prefer more targeted advertising. I prefer the channels I watch to advertise things related to the channel, but it's not all the way. But the reason we've seen so much more of that is that the companies that used to sponsor just don't have the money to do it anymore. And the companies that are being successful, unfortunately, as content creators, we, or they, are following the success model, which is services, which is things that are ongoing subscription services that people sign up to that they then get a cut of. So the reason that they like that, and the reason that most of us like service stuff, is that as opposed to being paid a one-time fee to promote one thing one time, if you're promoting a service, you may still get that one-time fee, but you're also going to get a cut of any ongoing revenue. So most of those subscription models and affiliate models do exactly that. The other thing I mentioned before is affiliate sales. So yeah, if you go to my gear guide, studiolivettoday.com/gear, if you buy a purchase from there, they will break off a small chunk and send it to me. So can you make money from music-related content in 2025? Yes. Is it harder now than it was 5 years ago, which was harder than it was 10 years ago? Yeah, it is. And if you are a pure musician, can you make money with your music? Yes, but you're going to have to be doing a lot of things. You're going to have to explore touring. You might have to explore music syncing and licensing. You're going to have to probably have a YouTube channel where you're sharing video content. You probably want to set yourself up a gear page that shows all the gear you use so that you can set up affiliate links. You probably want to partner with different services that you use so that you can have affiliate relationships with them. It's not as easy as band go in studio, pump out album, sell millions of copies, get money, get rich, get women, and then repeat 3 years later. And I only say women because that's the cliche, isn't it? The sleazy band. Like, anyway. So, yes. Short answer, yes, with a but. Long answer, no, with a All right, that all felt a little too serious, so why don't we finish with a couple of fun ones. Number 9, what's the worst song you've ever written? And feel free to answer this one yourself as well, and why. Now, the worst song that I've ever written is a song called Horse Thieves. And it's not bad because it was a poorly written song or I don't like it, but it's bad because it was written at a time where we accepted certain things and certain language in our culture that we just don't anymore. So it's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to tiptoe around this one. But if you want the full Horse Thieves story, go to the comments right now and say Horse Thieves yes. If we get enough people saying Horse Thieves yes, I'll make a separate video, which is the detailed history of the song Horse Thieves. So the year was 1997, and a young plucky Adelaide boy was writing songs for his band Scarpa. And one of those songs was a cool little country ditty. Like, it had some nice clean chords. It used an E into a B7, and then it had this cool bit where he kicked on a Boss DS1 and played parts like really angrily and distortedly, and then went back to... It was very common at the time. It was the 90s. Everyone was doing it. He listened to far too much Nirvana, never mind. So that was the crux of this song. And the song at the time was supposed to be a social commentary around the fact that the ignorant, bigoted views and values that folks had in 1997, in the modern year of our Lord 1997, were just like the old values we had back in the day. So it started with, we're going to find some horse thieves and we're going to hang them. Now, that's not great, but, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? They're horse thieves. They should be hung. But it was starting soft. It was saying, we're going to find some horse thieves and we're going to hang them. Because, you know, hang them, yeah, hang those horse thieves. So maybe with the trial, maybe not. Maybe you suspected the wrong person and the wrong people were hung. Hey, it was the 1800s. It then says we're going to find some witches and we're going to burn them. Because that'll learn them good, I think was one of the lines in the song. And again, it's around the mass hysteria of, I don't understand this thing doesn't align with my values and morals, therefore burn it. Hang it, burn it. I don't get it, so destroy it. And then it went downhill from there. You can probably guess where it goes from there. It talked about other things that were happening at the time, and it may or may not have suggested violence against an undeserving minority, which is all it was doing in the other two. But the other two were like medieval times and 1800s Old West. It didn't sit well. So it hasn't sat well with me since. I haven't played or listened to the song in over a decade, and I don't know that it's ever going to see the light of day again. I could re-record it and change the lyrics, maybe to carrots, but I don't know. Let me know. Horse Thieves, yes. Do you want to hear more? Have I made it intriguing now? Speaking of potentially inappropriate things, this is the Eden Massage and Adult Relaxation Centre, and I, for one, have no idea what goes on here. In the suburbs of Adelaide. Who would have thunk it? All right, let's finish off with something a bit fun. This is the final question, and it is, hey, what are you into? If you weren't watching YouTube music stuff, and I do watch a lot of YouTube music stuff, but if I'm not watching YouTube music stuff and nearly getting run over, what am I watching? What am I engaging with online? So I mentioned this last time we did one of these about a year ago. At that time I was just getting into this stuff, but I've gone down a rabbit hole, folks. And the rabbit hole is transportation. Yeah, originally, so I started, my gateway drug was plane spotting. So I was watching these plane spotting channels, watching planes land and take off. really relaxing, really therapeutic. It then moved on to a guy called Noel Phillips, and Noel Phillips does plane, but he also does like train and bus stuff. And I'm like, ooh, he's catching a Greyhound bus across America. This is interesting. I'm going to watch this. And then I discovered this bloke in Australia called From the Window Seat, and he does Australian train journeys. So he did the GAN up the north to the top end. He did I can't remember what it's called now, the one that goes from Perth across to Sydney. He did the Adelaide to Melbourne, the overland as well. So yeah, your old mate John's, as well as music and, hockey, which you're probably aware of by my general demeanour and the fact that I talk about hockey all the time. Yeah, also weirdly into this transportation stuff. Super therapeutic. The other thing I've been doing lately is playing a lot of Balatro, or Balatro, some people say it, which is a card game. It's on Steam, it's also on Apple Arcade for free. If you play it, put aside a couple of days, because I played about 10 hours of it in the first 2 days. I'm not a big gamer. But then I realised that there were people that did streams of them playing Balatro. And so I'm watching those. And yes, I do sit sometimes and think, what are you actually doing with your life, bro? You're watching someone play a game. So yeah, I'm not a big Twitch guy. I'm not into the game streamers. I'm not into like the AAA titles and stuff. But I like a bit of a casual game every now and then. And Balatro it is super fun. So there you go. If you want to check out some cool transportation stuff, yeah, go check out some of those. Noel Phillips From the Window Seat. And the Only Planes Network and In Plain Sight are the ones here in Brisbane and in Adelaide that have cool streams. So shout out to those folks. And yeah, play some Balatro. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm nearly at the city now. I'm walking down Rundle Street here, which it becomes Rundle Mall eventually. So this will take me into the city. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little stroll with me. Just a casual chat about a few topics. Of course, we're in an industrial area now, so I'm gonna excuse the grinders and the loud noises there because they should be here. But thank you for watching and listening to this one. I'm going to see you around the channel. If you're watching this one on the live premiere, we've got a heap of live shows coming for you over the weekend. Otherwise, check out studiolivetoday.com or studiolivetoday.com/live to see when I'm coming up live next. Thanks, folks. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Keep creating. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Oh, and don't forget to put your guilty pleasures, the things you like to watch on YouTube, in the comments below. And your worst song. See you next time.